Hello and welcome. My name is Elizabeth Wade, and I have shared a short summary of my professional background at the end of these slides. The title of this presentation is Successful Implementation 3, Staff Education and Go Live. This is the relevant financial relationship disclosure for this presentation. This is the learning objective that will be addressed during this presentation. These are the key abbreviations that will be used during this presentation. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to answer the following self-assessment question. All of the following statements regarding Go Live are true except A, when implementing a new or revised process to improve medication safety, educating staff is imperative for a successful Go Live. B, as a general rule, going live with a new or revised medication use process goes off without a hitch. C, it is important for medication safety leaders to communicate with frontline staff during implementation of new or revised medication use processes to obtain feedback and identify and mitigate any unintended negative consequences. Or D, following Go Live, successes should be celebrated with staff and improvement results shared with leadership. When we return to this self-assessment question, I will provide the answer and discuss the rationale. When considering how we provide staff education, we want to consider all the different methods and mediums. It's often said that if you hear a change 6 times, that is an effective way to make sure that everyone remembers the education. Well, sometimes I feel like we need 6 different ways to do staff education in order for at least one of them to reach frontline staff. People are just so busy. People don't have time to read emails. There's information and changes coming at them from every direction. And so sometimes having a method or medium that's kind of fun or unusual can be a little bit different and help make sure that information stands out. So here's a lot of ideas. We can present information at staff meetings, both at department, hospital, and system level. There's so many newsletters that go out. We can send an email blast, and sometimes this is okay, but people do get a lot of emails. We can put up screensavers in workstations, or people have slides that sometimes are presented in the lobby. Depending on the type of medication safety improvement, some of these may or may not be appropriate for the public to see. We could have potty pages. Having pages posted in the bathrooms certainly can be useful for people to pay attention. And finally, posting information on the intranet, announcements, posting announcements in the EHR, all great and useful ways to ensure that people receive information about changes. We want to think about the frequency of the education, whether that's weekly to start, maybe it's a monthly update that already goes out. If there's existing mechanisms that already go out for staff education that are successful, then certainly piggyback onto those. And as we get closer to the time of go live, before and after, it's really important to keep the frequency of education at the highest frequency that's reasonable so that it's at the top of mind. When thinking about staff education, it's important to ensure that our information and communication is complete. This is why using a template such as an SBAR is a great way to communicate this information. SBAR stands for Situation, Background, Assessment, and Recommendation, and it's a great way to explain the why behind a change, which is the key thing we want people to understand when implementing any sort of improvement and sharing education about it. The situation would outline what was the error, issue, or concern. The background would show us, well, how did that error, issue, or concern arise to begin with? How did it become a problem? The assessment outlines what options we consider to prevent that issue from recurring, and the recommendation ultimately would share what the change is and when is it going to go live. In the example below, we have an SBAR example for insulin IV kits that are used for hyperkalemia. Depending on the type of change, it may be helpful to employ different teaching methods. For example, having a didactic teaching method with audience response may be helpful at a staff meeting. So, in the prior example where we sent out an SBAR about new insulin kits for hyperkalemia, we might have a staff meeting where we talk about the pharmacy preparing these insulin kits, why we're going to start preparing them, and what risk we're trying to prevent. It may be helpful to have virtual self-led training. So for prescribers, rather than just saying, hey, there's a new order set, maybe there might be some training for prescribers about the new order set and how to actually use the order set. In small groups, we might be able to do some peer teaching or train the trainer. So this is where maybe there are some lead nurses or clinical resource nurses who may be able to lead some small group training sessions about how to use the new insulin kits for hyperkalemia. And finally, simulation is also a great way to provide training. In a code simulation, for example, we might have a patient who has hyperkalemia and we need to use the new insulin kit. A mentor of mine once said that with any go live, the only thing we can guarantee is that it won't be perfect. And this is why it's important that we have a plan going into any project and for improvement for collecting feedback. It's important that we can be nimble and use that information to immediately identify and mitigate any unintended consequences or issues that arise from the go live. This is where things like patient safety leadership walk rounds, having a process for tier huddles, daily stand-ups are really useful because we can hear those issues right away. If you don't have those mechanisms in place, it's okay. It's okay to walk around and just do some direct observation on the area. It's okay to also solicit feedback, whether it's planned or unplanned. I'd say get out there and just see what's going on. You can also plan for increasing your frequency for error report monitoring, or if you have really effective reporting in place, working with informatics and depending on the type of change, making sure that whatever mechanisms already exist for reporting issues are ramped up. As part of Go Live, it's so important to recognize the original reporter of the issue, whoever originally championed the issue or provided the suggestion, and close the loop. So if this was an idea that came out of an error report from your error reporting system, I love reaching out to those individuals to recognize them and thank them for reporting. Whether you recognize them publicly, I think, is purely up to the individual. Everyone likes to be recognized in a different way. But certainly we've done newsletters, awards, all kinds of things if people appreciate public recognition. My personal experience is that people just like to have that personal recognition. It means a lot when someone on the leadership team who's in charge of medication safety reaches out and just says thank you. It's important to celebrate the successes with staff, and if you've been tracking all of your changes on your change tracker, now you know you've completed an improvement. Now you can share those improvements and the changes that have gone live with leadership. Here are a few examples of ways that you can celebrate the change. You can celebrate patient safety wins via a newsletter. If you have a report that goes up to your governing boards, you can include a report of implemented changes on a monthly basis or a cadence that works for you. And there have been many different variations of change improvement reports or flashes that we've shared with leadership. And here's just two examples here on the right-hand side for you to see. Now let's go back to our self-assessment question. All of the following statements regarding Go Live are true except A, when implementing a new or revised process to improve safety, educating staff is imperative for a successful Go Live. B, as a general rule, going live with a new or revised process goes off without a hitch. C, it's important for medication safety leaders to communicate with frontline staff during the implementation of a new or revised process to obtain feedback. Or D, following Go Live successes should be celebrated with staff and improvement results shared with leadership. The correct answer here is B. In general, we know the only thing we can guarantee about any Go Live is that it won't be perfect. So the likelihood that something that goes live is going to go off without a hitch is practically none. It does happen every once in a while. I would love to be around to see it though someday. In conclusion, providing education to staff about changes to improve the medication use process is essential to prepare for Go Live. You can use a variety of teaching methods and SBAR to help to make sure that you're including all the reasons for why the change is being made. Any Go Live with an improvement initiative rarely goes perfectly. It's important that you have a mechanism in place to obtain feedback from staff about what did or didn't go well during go live and be prepared to make adjustments and pivot quickly. Finally, you want to celebrate your improvements. After all this hard work is helping to prevent errors and help make patients safer. Let's celebrate and be proud of the improvements that we've made, recognize the staff involved and who reported the issue, and communicate the results to leaders. Thank you very much for your time and participation.